Have you ever said something to your adult children with good intentions, only to feel the tension rise or notice them pulling away from you? As parents, it's natural to want the best for our children, no matter how old they are. But as we age, there's a fine line between offering guidance and unintentionally overstepping boundaries. Here's the truth. Some opinions, even when well-meaning, can drive a wedge between you and your children, especially once they're grown and living their own lives. If you're over 70, the way you share your thoughts matters more than ever. Certain comments, however harmless they may seem to you, can come across as judgmental, intrusive, or dismissive. And when this happens repeatedly, it can erode the very respect and closeness you've spent years building. In this video, we're diving into 5 specific types of opinions you should stop giving your children. Not because you don't have valuable insights, but because the way these opinions are expressed can unintentionally harm your relationship. By the end, you'll not only know how to avoid these pitfalls, but also discover healthier ways to communicate that strengthen the bond you share with your kids. Before we dive in, if you find this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe to help us continue creating content that empowers you to live your best life at every stage. Now, let's explore the first opinion to avoid, because this one could be silently frustrating your children without you even realizing it. Unwanted opinion number 1. Criticizing their parenting choices when you look at how your children are raising their kids, your precious grandchildren. It's only natural to compare their parenting style to how you raised them. Maybe they allow more screen time than you ever did. Perhaps their discipline methods feel too lenient, or their routines seem overly strict. Whatever it is, you might feel the urge to comment, thinking you're helping them see the light. But here's the harsh reality. Criticizing your children's parenting choices can feel like a direct attack on their competence as parents. It can make them feel judged, inadequate, or like they're constantly being scrutinized. Think about it from their perspective for a moment. They're juggling the challenges of modern parenting, something that looks very different from when you were raising them. They have to navigate things like social media, mental health awareness, evolving education systems, and an entirely new set of societal pressures. When your feedback sounds more like criticism than encouragement, it can come across as though you don't trust them to do what's best for their children. Why criticism hurts the relationship parenting is deeply personal. For your children, it's not just about the decisions they're making. It's about their identity as parents. When they hear unsolicited advice like, "Why are you letting them eat that? It's unhealthy. When you were little, we didn't let you stay up this late. You're being too soft on them. They need more discipline." It can feel like you're saying, "You're doing it wrong." Even if that's not your intention, these comments often feel like judgment rather than support. Over time, these small criticisms can build resentment, making your children more guarded or distant during family interactions. Why modern parenting looks different? Remember, your children are parenting in a world that's vastly different from the one you raised them in. They're navigating challenges you may never have faced, like balancing technology used for their kids while encouraging healthy habits, addressing emotional and mental health in ways that were rarely discussed in past generations, dealing with new educational philosophies and societal expectations. When you offer opinions rooted in your experience, it's important to acknowledge that the context has changed. What worked well in your time may not necessarily apply today. How to share support instead of criticism. The goal isn't to stay silent. It's to approach these moments with empathy and respect. Here are a few ways to shift from criticism to constructive support. Ask before giving advice. Instead of jumping in with a comment, try asking, "Would you like my thoughts on this?" It shows respect for their autonomy as parents and gives them the choice to accept your advice or not. Share stories, not critiques. Instead of saying, "You should do this," share your experience in a way that feels relatable rather than prescriptive. For example, "When you were little, I found it helpful to do X, but I know things are different now." Focus on the positives. Compliment their efforts. Say something like, "You're doing such a great job balancing everything. Parenting looks so much harder now than it was in my time." Positive reinforcement goes a long way. Trust their intentions. Remind yourself that your children want the best for their kids, just like you wanted the best for them. Even if their methods differ from yours, their love and care are the same. By stepping back from unsolicited critiques, You're showing your children that you respect their ability to navigate parenting on their own terms. This not only deepens their confidence as parents, but also reinforces the respect and trust between you. Unwanted opinion number 2. Offering financial advice they didn't ask for money can be one of the most sensitive topics in any relationship, especially between parents and adult children. As a parent, you've likely spent decades managing finances, making sacrifices, and navigating your own money challenges. It's only natural to want to share your wisdom with your children to help them avoid mistakes or make better decisions. However, when that advice isn't asked for, it can often feel intrusive, condescending, or even dismissive of the decisions they're already making. For many adult children, financial advice from their parents, especially when unsolicited, can strike a nerve. Why? Because money is not just a practical matter. It's deeply tied to their independence, self-worth, and identity. When you comment on how they're handling their finances, even with the best intentions, it can feel like you're questioning their competence or ability to take care of themselves. Take a moment to reflect. Have you ever said something like, "You should really save more," or "Why would you spend money on that?" without being asked? While these comments might seem harmless, they often carry unintended implications. Your children may hear, "You're irresponsible," or "You don't know how to manage your life." Over time, these repeated remarks can build frustration and resentment, especially if they feel like their choices are being constantly scrutinized. Why financial advice can be a trigger money is a highly personal subject, and it's often tied to feelings of pride, insecurity, and even shame. Your children, like anyone else, may have financial struggles or regrets they're not eager to share. By offering advice unprompted, you might unintentionally expose or highlight their vulnerabilities, making them feel judged or inadequate. It's also worth considering generational differences in financial priorities. The financial landscape your children are navigating may look very different from the one you faced at their age. Rising costs of living, student loan debt, volatile job markets, and new financial norms all shape their reality in ways that may be hard to fully appreciate. For example, if your children are struggling to save or buy a home, it might not be due to poor money management, but rather systemic challenges beyond their control. When you offer advice like, "You should have bought a house by now," or "Why don't you have more savings?" it can feel dismissive of the real obstacles they face. The balance between concern and respect, it's important to recognize the difference between offering guidance and overstepping boundaries. Your role as a parent has shifted over the years. While your insights are valuable, they need to be shared in a way that respects your children's autonomy and acknowledges the complexity of their financial situation. Here are some examples of how unsolicited financial advice might play out. Scenario 1. Your child decides to go on an expensive vacation, and you comment, "I don't think that's a wise way to spend money." While you may mean well, they might hear, "You're irresponsible and don't know how to prioritize." Scenario 2. You notice your child doesn't have much saved for retirement, and you say, "You really need to start thinking about the future." They might interpret this as, "You're not doing enough, and I'm worried about your competence." Scenario 3. Your child makes a significant purchase, like a new car, and you ask, "How can you afford that?" This can come across as invasive and judgmental, even if you're just curious. In each of these scenarios, what may seem like innocent comments from your perspective can feel critical or even accusatory to your child. How to navigate financial discussions respectfully instead of offering unsolicited advice. Focus on creating an environment where your children feel comfortable approaching you for guidance if they need it. Here's how. Wait for them to ask. Let your children take the lead in initiating financial discussions. If they don't ask for advice, trust that they're managing their finances in the way that works best for them. Offer support, not solutions. If your child shares a financial challenge, listen first. Instead of jumping in with advice, ask how you can support them. For example, say, "That sounds tough. How can I help?" Share your experience thoughtfully. If you feel compelled to share your financial wisdom, frame it as your personal experience rather than direct advice. For example, say, "When I was your age, I found it helpful to do X," instead of "You should do X." Respect their priorities. Recognize that your children's financial goals may not align with yours. For instance, they might prioritize travel or experiences over homeownership, and that's okay. Avoid imposing your values onto their decisions. Trust their judgment. Remember, your children are adults who are capable of making their own financial choices. Even if you disagree with their decisions, it's important to respect their right to live their lives on their own terms. The long-term impact of respecting boundaries when you step back from giving unsolicited financial advice, you're not only preserving your relationship, but also fostering trust and mutual respect. By showing your children that you believe in their ability to manage their own lives, you're strengthening the bond between you and ensuring they feel supported rather than criticized. Unwanted opinion number 3. Criticizing their romantic relationships. Few topics are as emotionally charged as love and relationships. And for adult children, hearing their parents' unsolicited opinions about their romantic choices can be one of the most difficult things to handle. Whether it's their spouse, partner, or even their dating habits, making comments about your child's love life can create tension that's hard to undo. From your perspective, you've spent a lifetime loving and wanting the best for your child. So, when you see something in their relationship that concerns you or doesn't meet your expectations, it's natural to feel the urge to step in with advice or even criticism. You might think, I'm just trying to help, or I want to protect them from heartache. But to your child, it can feel like a deep intrusion into one of the most personal aspects of their life. When you voice unsolicited opinions about their romantic partner, it's not just the partner who feels judged, it's your child as well. They chose this person after all, and if your comments suggest dissatisfaction, it can feel like you're questioning their judgment, values, or ability to make good decisions for themselves. Why romantic criticism cuts deep. Relationships are deeply personal, and your child's choice of a partner often reflects who they are, what they value, and what they want in life. When you criticize their partner, it's easy for them to internalize it as criticism of themselves. For example, if you say, I don't think they treat you well enough, your child might hear, you don't know how to choose someone who respects you. If you say, I think you could do better, it can translate to, you're settling and I don't approve of your standards. If you make comments about their partner's personality, appearance, or career, it can feel like an attack on their choice and, by extension, their own identity. These comments, however small they may seem to you, can erode trust and create distance. Your child may begin to feel like they can't share details about their relationship with you, fearing judgment or unsolicited input. Over time, this can lead to a breakdown in communication and closeness. The complexity of modern relationships. It's also important to consider that relationships today may look very different from what you experienced in your own life. Your child's partner might come from a different cultural background, have a different lifestyle, or approach relationships in ways that don't align with your values or expectations. These differences can be challenging to understand, but they're not inherently negative. Modern relationships often navigate complexities that previous generations didn't face as commonly, such as blended families, same-sex partnerships, or long-term relationships without marriage. Criticizing these dynamics, even indirectly, can make your child feel like you're dismissing the choices that bring them happiness. How criticism can backfire. Imagine your child is in a relationship that they're proud of, but you frequently point out your dissatisfaction. Over time, they may begin to feel torn between their love for their partner and their desire to maintain a good relationship with you. This creates unnecessary stress and can make family gatherings and conversations fraught with tension. In some cases, your criticism may even push them closer to their partner, as they seek support and validation outside the family. Ironically, your efforts to fix the situation could have the opposite effect, creating a stronger bond between them and their partner, while weakening your own relationship with your child. Even more concerning, if your child is in a genuinely difficult or unhealthy relationship, constant criticism may make them less likely to confide in you when they need help. If they feel judged or dismissed, they might avoid sharing their struggles, leaving them isolated in times of need. How to approach this topic respectfully. If you have concerns about your child's romantic relationship, it's important to approach the subject with care, sensitivity, and respect. Here's how. Keep an open mind. Remind yourself that your child's partner doesn't need to meet your expectations. They only need to make your child happy. Try to see the relationship through your child's eyes rather than through your own lens. Build a relationship with their partner. Instead of focusing on their flaws, look for opportunities to connect with and understand your child's partner. Show interest in their life, passions, and what they bring to your child's life. Avoid comparisons. Refrain from comparing their partner to other people, whether it's your own spouse, their past partners, or an idealized version of who you think they should be with. Ask, don't assume. If you're worried about something, ask your child about it in a way that shows concern, not judgment. For example, how are things going between you two? Is more constructive than, I don't think they treat you right. Support without criticism. Even if you have concerns, focus on being a source of support. Let your child know that you're there for them, no matter what, rather than positioning yourself as an obstacle to their relationship. What healthy boundaries look like. The key to maintaining respect and closeness is recognizing where your boundaries lie. It's not your place to fix your child's relationship or ensure it aligns with your values. Instead, your role is to offer unconditional love and trust. If your child feels that you respect their autonomy and trust their ability to make decisions, they'll be more likely to seek your advice when they need it. This approach not only strengthens your relationship, but also creates a safe space for open and honest communication. Unwanted opinion number 4. Telling them how to raise their children. If there's one subject that can make adult children bristle faster than almost anything else, it's hearing unsolicited opinions about how they're raising their own kids. This topic is a minefield, not because parents or grandparents don't have valuable insights, but because the very act of commenting, no matter how well-intentioned, can come across as judgmental, intrusive, or dismissive of their authority as parents. For many people over 70, this situation is tricky to navigate. After all, you've raised children yourself, and it's only natural to feel like you have some wisdom to pass down. Maybe you think, I've done this before. I know what works and what doesn't. And perhaps you've noticed something about your grandchildren's upbringing that seems unusual, concerning, or just plain different from the way you did things. The urge to step in, correct, or offer advice can feel overwhelming. But here's the reality. Parenting has changed, and so have the cultural norms, scientific research, and societal pressures that shape how younger generations raise their children. Your well-meaning suggestions, when uninvited, may feel to your child like criticism of their ability to be a good parent. And that's a wound that can take a long time to heal. Why this opinion creates friction. Parenting is a deeply personal journey. Every decision your child makes about how to raise their kids, whether it's about discipline, education, diet, or screen time, is the result of their own values, experiences, and research. When you give unsolicited opinions on these matters, it can feel like you're saying, you're doing it wrong, or worse, you're not capable of raising your own children without my input. For your child, this can be especially frustrating if they feel like your advice is outdated, overly critical, or based on assumptions that don't fit the realities of modern parenting. It might surprise you to learn just how much has changed in the world of child rearing. Discipline. What worked as discipline decades ago might now be seen as harsh or even harmful. Practices like spanking, for instance, are now widely discouraged by psychologists and pediatricians. Nutrition. Ideas about what constitutes a healthy diet for children have evolved significantly, with new information about sugar, processed foods, and allergies driving many parents to adopt stricter guidelines. Education. The pressures of standardized testing, technology, and social media have transformed how children learn and interact, requiring different strategies from parents. These shifts mean that even well-meaning advice like, why don't you let the kids play outside more instead of watching TV all day? Or, in my day, we didn't coddle children like this, can feel not just outdated but invalidating. The hidden messages behind unsolicited advice, whether or not you mean to, offering your opinions on parenting sends certain messages to your child. These include, I don't trust you to figure this out on your own. My way was better than your way. You're making mistakes that could harm your child. Even if none of these are your actual beliefs, they can be what your child hears when you weigh in uninvited. Over time, this can lead to resentment, especially if your child feels like they can't make decisions without having to defend or justify them to you. Worse still, These conversations can spill over into arguments in front of your grandchildren, creating an uncomfortable dynamic that leaves everyone feeling stressed. Why modern parenting is so different. The truth is, raising children in the 21st century is a completely different ballgame than it was decades ago. Today's parents face challenges that simply didn't exist in your era, such as digital overload. Children are growing up in a world dominated by screens, apps, and social media, which creates new concerns about mental health, privacy, and online safety. Intensive parenting. There's increasing pressure on parents to provide constant stimulation, enrichment activities, and educational opportunities for their kids. Changing norms. Issues like gender identity, mental health awareness, and cultural diversity play a much larger role in parenting decisions today than they did in the past. When you approach these challenges with a mindset of, why don't they just do it the way we used to? It can come across as dismissive of the complexities your child is navigating. How to be a supportive grandparent. So, what's the alternative? How can you share your wisdom without crossing boundaries or creating tension? The key is to focus on being a source of support rather than a source of criticism. Wait to be asked. The simplest rule is this: if your child doesn't ask for your opinion, don't give it. Trust that they'll come to you if they need advice or guidance. Offer encouragement. Instead of pointing out what you think they're doing wrong, look for opportunities to praise what they're doing right. A comment like, "I can see how much love and thought you put into raising these kids," can mean the world to your child. Ask questions. If you're curious or concerned about something, frame it as a question rather than a statement. For example, "I noticed you're trying a new approach with bedtime routines. How's that working for you?" Comes across as curious rather than judgmental. Focus on bonding, not fixing. Remember that your primary role as a grandparent is to love and bond with your grandchildren, not to fix their parents' mistakes. Respecting their parenting journey, it's important to recognize that your child's approach to parenting is just that, their approach. It doesn't have to mirror yours, and it doesn't have to meet your expectations. What matters most is that their children are loved, cared for, and supported. By respecting their autonomy and showing that you trust their judgment, you'll strengthen your relationship with both your child and your grandchildren. More importantly, you'll create a family dynamic built on mutual respect rather than conflict. Unwanted opinion number 5. Criticizing their career choices or life decisions. This is a big one. It's not uncommon for parents to have strong feelings about the career paths, financial decisions, or life choices their children have made, especially as they grow older and establish themselves. Maybe you don't understand why your child chose a certain job, why they seem to prioritize work over family, or why they made a significant life choice, like moving to another city or taking on what you perceive as unnecessary risks. However, voicing your disapproval of their choices, especially without being asked, can cause long-lasting resentment. As much as you may believe you're offering constructive advice or trying to protect them from what you see as poor decisions, unsolicited criticism in this area can feel deeply personal. It can make your child feel like their autonomy and ability to make decisions are being questioned, which can lead to frustration, anger, and even a breakdown in communication over time. The complexity of modern careers. The world of work and careers has changed dramatically over the past few decades. For people over 70, career paths may have seemed more straightforward. You get a job, work hard, and stick with it until retirement. Loyalty to a company was rewarded, and career success was often seen as a linear journey. Today, the professional landscape is a lot more complex. Many people change jobs, industries, or even career paths multiple times in their lives. Freelancing, remote work, startups, and the gig economy have all introduced new ways to approach work. This can make traditional metrics of career success, like job stability or climbing the corporate ladder, feel outdated. Criticizing your child's career choices with comments like, "Why don't you get a real job?" or "I don't understand why you left such a stable position," may not just feel judgmental, but also out of touch with the challenges and opportunities of the modern world. The same applies to life decisions like moving to a new city, choosing to rent instead of buy a home, or pursuing passions that may not bring financial wealth but bring personal fulfillment. These decisions are often made with careful thought and align with what your child values most in their life. Criticizing them for not aligning with your values can create a painful disconnect. Why this hurts your relationship at its core. Criticizing your child's life decisions can make them feel like you don't trust them to make good choices for themselves. It undermines their sense of independence and can feel like an attack on their identity. When you say things like, "I just don't think that's a smart move," "You'd be happier if you did things differently," or "I don't know why you keep making such risky decisions," it can come across as though you believe they're incapable of managing their own life. Even if your intention is to help them, the result is often feelings of inadequacy, frustration, or defensiveness. Over time, this kind of dynamic can erode respect and trust in the relationship. Your child may start to avoid sharing details about their career or life decisions with you, creating distance where there used to be openness. In some cases, it can even lead to estrangement, as your child might feel it's easier to avoid conversations with you altogether than to constantly defend their choices. The hidden messages and criticism when you offer unsolicited opinions about your child's career or life choices. You may think you're being helpful, but what they hear might be very different. They may interpret your words as saying, "You're not successful enough by my standards. Your priorities are wrong. You're disappointing me." These hidden messages can be especially painful because they strike at the heart of your child's identity and the life they've worked hard to build. How to offer support instead of criticism. If you're concerned about your child's career or life decisions, it's okay to want to help, but the way you approach the conversation makes all the difference. Here are some strategies to keep in mind. Ask questions instead of giving opinions. Instead of jumping in with advice or criticism, take the time to understand their perspective. Asking questions like, "What excites you about this new job?" or "What made you decide to move to a new city?" shows curiosity without judgment. Respect their priorities. Your child's definition of success may be very different from yours. While you may value stability or financial security, they might prioritize personal growth, creativity, or work-life balance. Recognize that their choices reflect their own values and goals, not yours. Offer encouragement. Even if you don't fully understand or agree with their decisions, finding ways to support them can strengthen your relationship. Saying something like, "I'm proud of how hard you're working," or "It's clear you've put a lot of thought into this decision," can go a long way. Know when to stay silent. Not every concern needs to be voiced. Sometimes, the best way to support your child is to trust that they know what's best for their own life. Building mutual respect, respecting your child's autonomy, is one of the most important ways to maintain a strong relationship as they grow older. By letting go of the need to weigh in on every decision they make, you're showing that you trust them to navigate their own path. Remember, your role as a parent has shifted. While you may have been their primary guide and decision-maker in their early years, your relationship now is about partnership and mutual respect. They want to know you're in their corner, not judging them from the sidelines. Conclusion: creating a foundation of love and trust over time. Avoiding these 5 unwanted opinions can make a world of difference in your relationship with your children. By respecting their autonomy, avoiding unnecessary criticism, and focusing on love and support, you're creating an environment where they feel valued and respected, and where they're more likely to seek your advice when they truly need it. At the end of the day, what your children want most is to feel that you trust them to live their own lives. By letting go of the need to control or critique, you're not just preserving their respect, you're strengthening the bond that keeps your family close, even as the years go by.